Welcome back to our discussion of slowing down to the speed of joy. In part one of the book, I talk about getting beyond the joyless urgency. That's what I call the speed and the busyness that is sort of tyrannical in our lives today. But it is definitely joyless. And so we have to get beyond this joyless urgency and find the speed of joy. Now, some people will say to me, well, I'm going to get much done if I'm at the speed of joy. And that isn't so. Um, the speed of joy is an internal disposition. So, for example, you could get in your car to go the other side of town. You get on the freeway. There's a lot of traffic. You can try and hustle between lanes, switch lanes here, switch lanes there, get really all worked up about it. You might get to the other side of town like 1 minute early, but the cost of being in that angst for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe longer is enormous. It is much greater than that 1 minute early that you got there. And so the other way to do it is to get onto the highway. You're at the speed of joy. You have this internal disposition. Okay, I'm at the speed of joy. And the traffic is what it is. Get in the traffic. You live at the speed of joy. Maybe you listen to audio book. Maybe you listen to some music. You don't get stressed out. It's going to take however long it's going to take. You're not actually in control of that. And you realize you're not in control of that. There are a lot of things that we try to be in control of that we can't be in control of. And that creates anxiety in our lives. That creates stress in our lives. That robs us of the joy. And so part one of the book is about getting beyond the joyless urgency that seems to be dictating the way we live our lives. I begin this section of the book, saying, there are people who say they have no regrets. I am not one of them. I'm not. There are people who say they have no regrets, and if that's true, I'm immensely happy for them. But I cannot sit here and say that I'm one of them. I do have regrets. I have regrets about living that 25 years of my life at an irrational and in many ways inhumane speed. I have regrets about that, and that is proven by the fact that if I could go back and relive those 25 years again, one thing that I would definitely do is I would slow down. I would slow down. I would do less. I would find my no. I would find my yes. And I'd be much more discerning about what I said yes to and what I said no to. And I would slow down to the speed of joy. I would slow down to experience all the amazing people God brought into my life in that 25 years, to experience them on a different level. That's my truth. And so I have that regret. But that regret drives me to live differently, as we go forward. Of course, there's the story in this chapter about, the indigenous who are climbing the mountain, and then the Americans are going too fast, and then the next day the indigenous won't go anywhere, and they're like, come on, we got to go. And the indigenous, no, we got to wait. We got to wait for our soul to catch up. We've got to wait for our soul to catch up. And I think that we're probably all in that scenario. But the heart of the opening of part one is around two questions that came into my life about 10 years ago. So I started thinking about this all 10 years ago. I decided to take a year off from traveling and speaking 6 years ago. And that's really when I started to think about the speed of joy, slowing down to the speed of joy, about 6 years ago. But about 10 years ago, within the space of only a couple of months, two questions came into my life that I think are very important to our conversation. The first question was from a friend of mine, and it seems like a rudimentary question when you just read it on a page. But this question was truly bewildering to me. And I remember we're just sitting there one day, and he says to me, "Do you feel like you are doing enough?" And as I say, the question was bewildering. When he asked the question, I didn't even know where to start with the question. Do you feel like you're doing enough? So 10 years ago, I would have been 42, and I would have been in the thick of it, 4 kids, 5th on the way, lots going on at work, lots of travel, a lot going on 10 years ago. And then my friend, we must have been talking about our lives, we must have been talking about what's going on, and I'm probably sharing what's going on with him, and he's probably thinking, well, my heavens, like, when do you sleep? When do you eat? When do you bathe? Like, what are you doing? And so his question, do you feel like you're doing enough? I mean, it slapped me upside the head, I got to tell you. And it really, it was disorienting to me. And I really started to think about it. I never thought about it. Never thought about, am I doing enough? Good opportunity comes along, you try to do it. An opportunity to do good comes along, you try to do it. But there is a point where good things can become bad for us. And I think that is it's next layer of discernment, right? In the beginning, discernment is, okay, between things that are good for us and bad for us. First layer of discernment. But we can't stay there our whole lives, because what will happen is we'll start doing good, and the good will pile up, and at some point doing good can become bad for us. And it's counterintuitive in a way, but we all see people who are serving other people who have lost their joy, and it is a particularly ugly thing to see someone serving another person in any way when they have lost their joy. And I think that we're in danger of getting there if we don't discern, okay, yes, this is a good thing, but is it a good thing for me? Is it what I'm being called to? And so the first question was, are you doing enough? Didn't know how to get my head around that. Took me, months. But I challenge you with the question today, and I ask you, are you doing enough? And what we most likely discover is that we're not only are we doing enough, that we're doing too much. And we're doing too much most of the time because we don't have a plan. And we need to step back from our lives and take a bigger look and say, okay, what matters most? What matters least? How much time are we putting towards what matters most? Of these things that matter least, do they matter at all? Do we have to do them at all? And then the things in the middle that are important but not urgent, and are we making time for them? We need a plan. Otherwise, we do everything in the fear of missing out on the thing that is most important for us. And it honestly is a horrible strategy that I've fallen into myself many, many, many times. So there's no judgment here. There's just an invitation to find a new way. The next question I came upon was, I went to breakfast with a friend of mine. He's a little younger than me. He's a speaker. He's a writer. He's a businessman. He has a lot going on in his life, and he's a coffee person. So I show up to this breakfast meeting. I'm not really a breakfast meeting guy, I gotta say. But he was only in town for one day, and that was the only slot he had. And so I go over to this breakfast place, and he's there, and he's all chipper. He's got his coffee as big as his head, and he's halfway through it, so he's ready to go. And I'm just still half waking up. And so I sit down, and he just starts talking. Just rapid fire, I asked him, like, well, give me an update. What's going on in your life? And then just boom, he just goes, just rapid fire. And this goes on for like 20 minutes. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this guy is nuts. Why would anybody have this much going on? Um, and when he came to a close, or took a breath, or a break in the conversation to have a sip of coffee, I asked him a question. I asked him, "Why are you so busy?" I don't know if you've ever seen one of those movies where, that they're at war. They're maybe like on a submarine or battle carrier, and they fire a torpedo, and then the torpedo goes out like it's going toward its target, but then it turns around and begins to come straight back at them, the person or the submarine that fired the torpedo. And of course, the coordinates to the torpedo were put in wrong, and now it's hunting the submarine that actually fired it. This question was like one of those torpedoes. As soon as the question came out of my mouth, okay, it turned around and was coming straight at me. I'm asking him why he's so busy, and the question is just like directing straight at me. Like, why are you so busy, Matthew? And he didn't have a good answer to the question, and I didn't have a good answer to the question. And that really, these two questions, do you feel like you're doing enough? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if anyone ever feels like they're doing enough. Maybe that's an inadequacy in us. Maybe there's an insecurity in us. I don't know what that is. But we should be able to come to a healthy place where we feel like, okay, I'm doing my bit. I am doing enough. And then the second question, why are you so busy? And I think it's a question that we all need to reflect upon. I'm 6 years into really trying to live this stuff. And it is a question that I still need to take a serious look at on a regular basis. Why are you so busy? And why is an important question? Because busy is bad for us. As I go on to explain. Busy is bad for us. Busy is not our friend. Busy is not your friend. Busy is not my friend. And it's time to break up with busy. It's absolutely time to break up with busy. And so the section of the book is titled A Mutual Toxic Friend. Most of us have experienced a toxic friendship. Most of us have experienced a toxic friendship. A toxic friendship is a relationship that disrupts your happiness and equilibrium by consistently negatively impacting your emotional and psychological health. Here are some signs that you are in a toxic relationship. It's always stressful and chaotic, constant negativity. They are constantly critical of you, disrespect your boundaries, lack of empathy and support, manipulative behavior, frequent conflict, unreliable, mean, degrading, abusive, or bullying. They isolate you. You feel physically and emotionally drained after spending time with them. You find yourself losing sleep over the relationship. They make promises they have no intention of keeping. They encourage you to participate in behaviors that are risky or outright bad for you. You cannot trust the person. They never apologize. The relationship is out of balance due to an imbalance of effort. Diminished self-confidence and self-esteem. They selfishly demand their wants be prioritized over your needs. You catch yourself blaming yourself for their behavior. Other important relationships suffer because of this relationship. They never consider what is best for you. The drama never stops. You feel trapped. So these are the signs of a toxic relationship. And as I mentioned, we've probably all been in toxic relationships to varying degrees. And my relationship doesn't have to have all of those signs to be toxic. You get 2, 3, 4, 5 of those together, you're going to be pretty miserable pretty quickly. And of course, the chapter is about our mutual toxic friend. And what do I go on to say? If I had a friend who behaved in the ways I just described, you would encourage me to move on from that relationship. As it turns out, we have a mutual toxic friend, the same friend, who is abusing us and ruining our lives in exactly the same ways. Busy is not our friend. Busy's not your friend. Busy's not my friend. Makes you feel overwhelmed, tired, inadequate, judged, worn out, resentful, discouraged, stressed, anxious. If I had a friend like that, I spent the whole day with that friend, and then at the end of the day, we meet up. I tell you about my day. I tell you about this friend. And I said to you, oh, I'm going to spend the whole day with that friend again tomorrow. You would think I'm insane. You would warn me against that. You would try and pull me off of that idea. But that's what we do. We spend the whole day with Busy, this friend who makes us feel overwhelmed, tired, inadequate, worn out, resentful, discouraged, stressed, anxious. We spend the whole day with this friend. Then we spend the whole day again tomorrow with this friend. And a whole day again the next day with this friend. And so we have this toxic friend, and it is time to break up with Busy. It is time to eradicate Busy from our lives. Busy doesn't care about you. It doesn't care how much sleep you got last night. Busy doesn't care about your health, and it never factors in your relationships. Busy doesn't care about what is fair or reasonable. Busy creates unrealistic expectations and fills you with doubts and fears. It treats you like a machine because Busy has no soul. Busy is loveless and lifeless and soulless, and so it is completely incapable of knowing your hopes, dreams, needs, hurts. It is time to absolutely eradicate Busy from our lives.